Welcome back into the GSMC Sports Podcast as we are circling around the MLB trade deadline here. We saw over the weekend, of course, the MLB's most prominent franchise in the New York Yankees go out and acquire a star in Jazz Chisholm Jr., the all-star from the 2022 season. Maybe hasn't been quite as spectacular as we were anticipating while he was on his rise, but still does fill one of the biggest needs for the Yankees at this year's deadline, which was getting a leadoff hitter. We've been talking at length about the fact that the Yankees don't have all that much depth to their hitting order, and outside of Aaron Judge and Juan Soto, there really aren't too many known quantities that you can rely on. And even if Jazz's numbers have dipped a little bit over the course of the past couple seasons, he's still a plus hitter. He is hitting .248, a .322 on-base percentage, and a .726 OPS. He has an OPS plus of 100, so again, kind of looking at league average there, but at the same time, that is an improvement over what the Yankees have had as of late, where Jazz, again, not spectacular numbers necessarily, but still probably the third best bat on the Yankees at this point. Now, we'll see, obviously, what happens as well when Giancarlo Stanton comes back, where he was having a bounce-back season. So, I mean, again, stupid debate to even have, but, maybe you want to slate Stanton as a better hitter than Jazz Chisholm. I think that would be totally fair based off of what we saw early on in this year, but he's been out since late June. He is expected to be back within the next week or so. So definitely some good news for Yankees fans there. And again, if you can just start to sort of round out the distribution of offensive production, we saw some of these others sort of definitely this past weekend in their series win against the Red Sox. But since the All-Star break in general, I would say Game 2 of that Mets series as well, we saw some added production from the latter half of the order. And that's something that, again, Yankees fans can definitely start to build off of and feel optimistic there. So the news did officially break Saturday night, obviously, acquiring Jazz Chisholm. It costed the Yankees 3 prospects. 2 of them were in the bottom part of the top 20 in their farm system, number 19 and number 20, according to MLB.com. So overall, a pretty inexpensive deal for the Yankees to get a player of Jazz Chisholm's caliber that fits a need offensively and also is under roster control for the next few seasons. So it's just about, making it fit. He did make his debut last night on Sunday against the Boston Red Sox. Aaron Boone had him hitting 5th in this game. He's talked to reporters about how he wanted to sort of ease Jazz into this lineup. And eventually, like I mentioned, he is probably going to slide into that leadoff hitter role. Not what we saw right from the jump here, but the Yankees have been sort of searching for that spot, and Jazz has been a leadoff hitter for the majority of his MLB career, so you would have to anticipate that that's how this plays out for them. He did record his first hit as a Yankee in the 9th inning last night off of an infield single. He ended up scoring as well as he stole third base along that, as well as the Yankees sort of put on an onslaught at the end of that game to end up blowing out the Red Sox. But, it wasn't some spectacular offensive showing from Jazz, but a hit, a stolen base, and a run, it's hard to complain about that. Defensively, last night they put him in center field, and this is where things start to get a little bit more complicated with this Jazz fit into the Yankees system, because there isn't necessarily a clear-cut defensive spot to slide him into. So he played center field last night, but as a result, that saw Aaron Judge in the designated hitter spot for them, which they would prefer to have open for when Giancarlo Stanton comes back, maybe even Dominguez as well, who is coming back from his injury, that you would probably want to utilize Aaron Judge being a plus outfielder. So that part was a little bit complicated. Aaron Boone has talked about the idea that we could definitely see Jazz Chisholm playing the infield. He has some experience as a middle infielder at second base and shortstop. Shortstop feels very unlikely, one considering that is not really where he's had his experience for the majority of his career, but also because that would mean that Andrew Volpe, who has only played shortstop since being called up to the majors, would be playing a new position. And at this point with Volpe, you probably don't want to mess with that all too much. He's finally back to giving you some really good production, especially from the offensive side, that I feel like they probably want to, keep things clean there and not have to have him learn a new position elsewhere. But, second base would be that other place for him to slide into. But already in the past 24 hours, their current second baseman, Gleyber Torres, was asked about the idea of whether or not he would move to third base, and he was very reluctant to even entertain that idea. He flat out said, quote, "I don't like it." And he added, "I'm a second baseman. I play second," which is definitely stubborn, to say the least there. But I also do understand that Torres is going to be an unrestricted free agent after this season, and playing in a contract year, trying to pick up a new position, I feel like, of course, you want to, capitalize on the team winning and everything, but Torres is heading into a year where he understands if he is going to get another big contract, it is, probably this year, where he is currently 27 years old. 27 years old, going to be turning 28 in December, and this is probably his last opportunity to go out and get a big-time contract. Now, not to say that his MLB career is coming to an end by any means, but, this is ideally when you're supposed to be hitting your prime. Torres has been having a down year, absolutely, offensively, where he's hitting a career low 237. His on-base percentage is just 313, and this is after playing the past couple years as, a plus bat for the Yankees, once a two-time All-Star as well. So I'm sure that Torres does have somewhat selfish intents from that perspective, but also when you're talking about money, I can't say I necessarily blame him either. So maybe that could mean or could lead to Jazz trying to learn a new position at third base. He is an ultra athlete, and you feel like there's definitely a good chance that he would be able to develop there. But again, that's just where that you're shuffling things up a little bit, having one or two players playing out of position possibly to accommodate all of this. But I still feel like it was a very easy decision for the most part for the Yankees to pull the trigger on this, considering that it didn't cost them all that much, that Torres, I can't imagine, is going to be on the Yankees after this season, and having roster control as well, already understanding that you're going to have to bring out the Brinks trucks if they have any chance to re-sign Juan Soto, which is obviously an ongoing conversation moving forward here with the Yankees. But, Jazz, I think after this year, the vision is going to be a lot more clear as to where he ends up specifically from a defensive perspective, that you can definitely talk yourself into, especially if they are able to retain Juan Soto, that you have ideally your two outfielders there. You have Andrew Volpe as your shortstop, who I'm maybe not quite as high on him as a lot of MLB experts are. He's a very promising player, though. Even, I think he was put in some conversation. It's almost one of those things. I feel like the media just sort of set him up for slander a little bit by putting him in some conversations as to the best shortstops in the game when it was maybe a little bit premature there. But, Volpe is another player that still has a ton of room to grow, still has a ton of time to grow, just turned 23 years old, and you would think that he could be maybe a potential cornerstone there. You have Jason Dominguez as well, hopefully coming back for them. So the Yankees can, talk themselves into what feels like they were in a spot that they were a little bit handicapped in terms of having others outside of those top two, that Jazz can sort of be a long-term option for them. Torres sees his way out. You have two middle infielders, two outfielders there that you feel like, and Dominguez still a little bit TBD in terms of what he is going to be long term and what his fit looks like, but another bat that, Yankees fans can sort of get excited about in terms of what the long term prospects looks like there. So again, I think this was the right move for them. It doesn't necessarily solidify them any more so as a championship contender, but it's a step in the right direction, absolutely. There are some kinks that need to be worked out, but this was a bit of a no-brainer move, in my opinion, for the Yankees. You saw some of the reports leading up to this as well. The idea that there were some personality conflicts about Jazz and how he fits into the Yankees. And at this point, I think that the Yankees probably need to, and this is just sort of a broad statement here. Maybe it's coming from a Red Sox fan, but I think they need to take themselves a little bit less seriously in terms of the Yankee tradition and everything. And if Jazz Chisholm's going to be a little bit louder, then it's not the worst thing in the world as long as he's producing for you on the baseball field. But let me know how you guys feel about this move. Again, I think it's a no-brainer, but it doesn't come without its lumps along the way. So, definitely be sure to give us your thoughts on this move. But also in the American League East, we saw another team, a rival of the Yankees, in the Tampa Bay Rays, decide to make some moves. But despite the fact that at the time they were a team above 500 and were in the mix for some playoff spots, and you can say still currently are at 54 and 52, that they decided to go a different direction and they sold off a number of pieces so far. So we are going to dive into that conversation. But first, a quick break. Don't go anywhere. We will be right back.